The views and opinions expressed in this video are those of the speakers and panelists, and do not necessarily reflect the position of the ETHOS Institute for Public Christianity and its founding institutions and organizations.
Is Jesus God?
Migrant workers and human rights from a Christian perspective.
Marriage and family.
ISIS presents a much bigger threat.
How do we integrate the Bible with our scientific understanding?
Are you able to actually describe and articulate clearly your own sense of purpose in life?
Indeed, a privilege to be able to be here to share some of my thoughts regarding the very important topic. And thank you, Minister Tong, for your insightful sharing. Indeed. When Jesus said, "The reason I was born and came into the world is to testify to the truth, and everyone on the side of truth listens to me." When he said that, Pontius Pilate responded by saying, "What is truth?" John chapter 18, verse 37 to 38. What is truth? In fact, if there is one, what has it got to do with the state and secular power or public policy and nation making or building? Although we may have different interpretations regarding Pilate's sarcasm, somehow one suspects he is not alone, and the belief and assertion that the whole discussion of truth falls only within the sphere of philosophy and theology and nothing to do with anything else remain quite prevalent today. However, St. Augustine, in one of his most important theological treatises, The City of God, underlines that the state or the secular power has a place in the divine economy of God. And the discussion of truth is not as alien, as irrelevant as one in the politics or in any sphere of belief. The church, having occupied space and time in the land she is residing, should have the responsibility given by God to work closely with the state to provide societal peace and stability for the benefits of the nation. Jeremiah 29, if we may somehow paraphrase it a little, the church is to seek the welfare of the city because in its welfare, we find our welfare. So in the City of God, Augustine addresses the relationship between the church and the state with the intention to find a common ground for both to work hand in hand in pursuit of God's purpose for humanity. So as I cite John 18 and Augustine's reflection, I wish to make 2 points. First, the whole discussion of religion, public policy, and nation building will not be quite complete without recognizing that which God has intended for humanity, or the truth, as Jesus says. And my second point is, such discussion about truth as highlighted by St. Augustine will do us well if we come together, religious bodies and the state, into discussion and to make sense of what it is for us. So to recognize the importance of dialogue and engagement as what we have here tonight and also underscored by Minister a while ago will not be too difficult for us. But the challenge is to find ways to constructively relate the two realms, the city of God and the city of man, and bring about the common good to the land as predestined by God, the divine, is a subject that warrants a lot of attention. Most people, when we ask about the essential lubricants for sincere dialogue and engagement, would probably refer to freedom and equality, especially in the context of a secular society. And we all know that Singapore is a secular society. The understanding that a secular society more so than any other, could offer a fair and open argument about the common good is how we come together to run our life constructively. It is possible in that sense of the word because there is a recognized common denominator, something we call the public reason, to work with and to achieve its end goal of social harmony. It is a powerful presupposition, and we could find many works of intellectuals across the whole arena of the politics, journalism, or arts, just to mention a few, propagating the importance of public reason or secular freedom. Their arguments presuppose any kind of talk about religious truth or theocracy, which is about any privilege given to a particular religion that is not accountable to public reason, inevitably poses a threat to freedom and equality, and logically will lead to a disturbance of peace and social harmony. Why? Because such a theocracy, or the talk about religious truth within certain religion, because of its claim, and that claim that cannot be proven or supported by any reasonable argument, is a problem for us. So one may suggest that undergirding such argument is a strong belief of the Enlightenment, which propagates any authority that is based on special revelation must always be tested, proven, and fulfilled the condition of public reason before any meaningful dialogue or engagement in the public space is possible. So such version of secularity somehow echoes to a certain degree what Isaiah Berlin in his 1958 lecture differentiated as negative and positive liberty. Negative liberty is about a society where the government allows maximum freedom and do not seek to influence or prescribe moral priorities. Positive liberty, on the other hand, being the case where the government sees itself as having a specific goal, agenda, or even mission to achieve human emancipation in the society. A true liberal will commit to negative liberty, and the rest, perhaps most of us, with various degree, positive liberty. So the assumption is the government, in order to secure peace and equality, has no other options but to take account of what is considered to be the common good by public view and ensure individuals and groups do not hurt one another in the process. Certainly, public reason and secular freedom are today's currency, but could what everyone desires and believe it is good for us at the end is indeed good for us? Would this account of secular liberty overtly simplify the meaning of freedom and reduce our understanding of humanity, thus curtails public policy and nation building in the long run? And is public reason truly common, so much so that reasonable argument is easily recognizable and attained? By ruling out other issues that cannot be straitjacketed into public reason, the society, although may evade potential collision of different understandings of truth and also different understanding of how a proper human being is constructed or constituted, it cannot assume that these differences may not be heard or even discussed. The main concern over truth, besides its perceived unreasonableness, is about the contest over the truth. To exclude the talk of theocracy from public space, one wishes to avoid the risk of social unrest and even religious violence. However, such belief falls into the fallacy that the talk about truth is less important than social harmony and stability. In a way, it assumes as well that power itself is more important than truth, as Pontius Pilate would have us believed. Rowan Williams, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, aptly says that to be concerned about truth is at least to recognize that there are things about humanity and the world that cannot be destroyed by oppression and injustice, which no power can dismantle. So indeed, by avoiding the subject, we run the risk of escalating human power to the extent that in order to be in control and achieve its goal, it can self-justify any use of coercion and even suppression. The cost not to talk about truth is high, especially in policy making and nation building that aims to work towards the common good, something political philosophers since the days of Plato have recognized. Thus, despite of differing views and convictions, for different religious communities and the state to come into dialogue is in fact crucially important for us, and also for the well-being of our nation and the stability of our society. What is truth? The sarcasm of Pontius Pilate is therefore politically unfitting. Without question and doubt, the worry that disagreements about truth, if not well managed or handled, can lead to social unrest certainly warrants our attention. And we can certainly look back into our history and know the cruelty of it. However, we may also argue that when it is well managed, robust views of disagreement and debate between different parties could in fact play an important catalyst in building some form of social cohesion and a sense of belonging. Regarding building of a nation, in particular in building a sense of national identity and loyalty, for example, what does it mean to be a Singaporean? To be loyal to our country? All these will not be possible without a more basic kind of belonging, perhaps associated with religion as its foundation and basis. In other words, national identity and loyalty, a strong sense of belonging to a country, cannot be built in a vacuum or upon the GDP of a country. The crux of the matter here, we could say, is about religious language. For a person to believe in the truth is to believe that the object of our belief is not subject to the contingencies of human doing. The truth cannot be changed by what we do or what we fail to do. The transcendence will not be affected by what happens over this side of the eternity. In other words, God does not fail because I fail to convince others about the truth of God. Thus, any attempt to win or conquer by violence or force is in fact a sign of religious insecurity, a sign of lack of faith and conviction in the object of belief. Paradoxically, the more religious a person is, the less he or she will sanction violence or religious hatred, because he or she has the confidence that the truth will prevail at the end, whatever the fluctuations of human life and history. The reality is the divine does not need the protection of human violence, and the use of language such as conquering or crusading is always problematic, especially for our Christian faith. Jonathan Sacks, the chief rabbi, uses the term the dignity of difference to capture the importance of diversity of conviction. He says that it is not from a utopian and potentially even oppressive set of assumptions that boils down to the belief that everyone who is reasonable is bound to have the same view. To put it in a simpler terms, diversity of belief or conviction is only natural and even reasonable. To accept it, we may say, is neither reductionistic nor concessional. The integrating of different views to form our understanding of the wholeness of humanity can only be done with reference to the sacred, in particular, with reference to the image of God in Christ's incarnation. Thus, none of this robust dialogue and engagement with different religious groups and the state entail a compromise of our fundamental belief. In fact, it takes some degree of humility to acknowledge the richness of other faith groups and to discover God's universal revelation in them as they have received it. As we learn from one another, as we respect one another, we soon recognize that none of us have received the whole truth of God. In a way, we're like what the Chinese say, 瞎子摸象, the blind man and the elephant. Indeed, some of us have something to bring to the table, and if what we wish to glean from our discussion is more than just rational thinking or pragmatic assumption, we need to do beyond all these things. We need to be aware that any ideology, including any ideology of politics, without the transcendence and the divine revelation to uphold its value, could easily develop into a sophisticated version of absolutism, even though its end goal may be to achieve social harmony and stability. What is truth? Pontius Pilate's question, not so much about the sarcasm, is an important one for us. And the question is, how we approach it will shape our view on religion, public policy, and nation building. So back to Jesus, John 18, he says, the reason I was born and came into the world is to testify to the truth. And everyone on the same side of truth listens to me. And the last question to ponder is, are we on the same side of the truth? Thank you.